Time, 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 time,
Welcome to the Fancy Thinker. I'm Jared, and today I have 7 books that I have not yet done a review for because I am so far behind on this review thing, and I apologize for that in advance because because of that, because I want to give each book its proper justice. This could end up being a very long video, and so these are going to be all short reviews. They're all going to be off the cuff, as I like to say. And I'm going to try to catch up with all these and hopefully in the future have these reviews be a little more frequent so that I can keep up with my rampant reading habits. All right. To start off, I'm going to start off with my self published review of a book I read last month, and that is called Perils of the Past by Kane Williams. And Mr. Williams was so kind to send me an arc of this book, and I gladly read these things when I can fit them in my schedule and have the time to do so. And so, thank you very much for sending me that, Mr. Williams. And I gotta say, when I first started this book, it was a little tough for me to get into. There's a lot of new stuff thrown at you when you first start this book. So if you're looking to delve into a fantasy world, um, and you're looking for something new and something a little different, then this might be your cup of tea. Williams throws us into this world that has a unique magic cast to it, where magic is has these things inside you that you use up as you cast spells and what have you. And there's a lot of stuff in the beginning about the different factions, and there's a monastery, and then there's a king, and I had a difficult time following the initial um, parts of the book where it was jumping from characters to characters, but you're not familiar with who these characters are yet. And so it took a while for me to get into it. Once I did, though, once I settled down, it was like about halfway through the book. And once I settled down, got used to the characters, got used to who they were, and you started to focus in on 2 main characters, and those main characters kind of stole the rest of the book and carried you along, and you were able to follow them and really actually, you had somebody to root for and somebody to latch on to. And so the second half of the book was actually quite pleasurable, and I found myself getting into it, and I actually really liked the ending. I thought he did something a little different with the ending that I wasn't expecting. It definitely leaves it open for future books in this world. I don't recall what it was called, but the it was just really it became a really interesting tale once you got towards the end of it. And I think with a little, yeah, it just a little patience on the reader's part at the beginning of the book will pay off once you get towards the end of Perils of the Past. And it's interesting because there is some politics in here, some wrangling, so to speak, between different a new generation and the old generations. And there's some differences in how they approach their the life, and how they want to handle the problems that are arising, that arise in society, especially society that is centered around certain magical aspects. So I like that part of it, and yeah, the pacing was fast. It was there was quite a bit of movement and action in the story that really that at times felt forced, but at other times was very relevant to what was going on in the story. So, like I said, the second half of the book was much stronger than the first, and if you're going to read this one, have some patience at the beginning so that you can get to the more exciting ending parts. And I really like how the main character, um, her story arc came about, and I like how it landed, and I like how it wasn't an absolute at the ending. It was very up for grabs, and it was very thought provoking. That made you want to think about. Oh, okay, that's not the ending I was expecting. How does that resonate with what the character went through, and does it make sense? And I think it did. I think it was something that could have easily just been a pastiche ending, and I think he turned a trope laden fantasy story into something better than its original parts, and I think that's the strength of the book at this point. Next, already next up, we have a desolation called Peace by Arkady Martine. Sorry for the glare. Um, this is the follow up book to A Memory Called Empire, winner of the Hugo Award. And this is a spectacular follow up. I had a blast with this book. It really, it really did a great job of continuing these small threads that Martine left at the end of the first book, and then expanding upon them in a truly awesome space opera manner that has a lot of deep themes running through it. I really love how Martine tackles um, the concepts of the alien, the other, and we're both within a established society, and of course, with the advent of a new alien species that our empire now runs across. Martine just uh, her handling of characters in this book is so intense that you really, really get to know each one of these characters that she describes in this book, and you really want all of them to kind of do well. But even though some of them are not doing what you want them to be doing, so it's just the explorations in this book is of like language, trying to figure out what people are saying, not just trying to figure out what aliens are saying, which is a whole different thing. Which the alien encounter in this book is like everything you want out of a soap opera, a space opera, soap opera. Yeah. Everything you want out of a space opera. The alien encounter is everything you want because it's truly is strange. It truly is like you're figuring stuff out. There's accidents. There's there's stumbles. You don't they don't characters don't just get it right away. They're not There's not just this instant. Oh, okay, we can communicate now. Everything's fine. It there's it's a process, and it's in this concept of just trying to come to grips with that when within their own society, they have this intricate communication, uh, methods that go beyond where nothing means what it means on the surface, and it goes beyond just normal speaking and communication. It goes deeper than that. It's poetic, and so when you have an ambassador from an independent space station, Mahit, um, then that are considered barbarians, then the levels that this barbarian has to go through just to be a part of this empire and communicate with it is very intense and very high. And then to go one step further and bring those aspects of communication to a new alien species. Wow, that really, really resonates in here. And there's a character who is the emperor in waiting called Eight Antidote, an 11-year-old brilliant child that is just fascinating to follow in here. I don't think I've ever come across a child character written so well that I wanted to follow them without being annoyed at their age. um, so it really a well written book. Martine knocked it out of the park with this sequel, and we we did this for the read along on Speculative Speculations. So if you want to check out our discussions on the actual chapters, chapter by chapter discussion, it was a lot of fun, and it was a lot of fun to read this book. This may very well be one of my top 10 of the year. We'll see. I think it's that good, and the if you're looking for a good space opera that will explore all these topics about being human and what that means to different societies, different human culture societies in a well developed space opera setting, then this is definitely the book for you. So that's my off the cuff review of that one. All right, next up. All right, next up is Ubik by Philip K. Dick. This is part of the sci-fi masterwork read along that we do on Page String, and this was we haven't had a discussion about this book yet, so stay tuned for that. But this book, this nice little short book by Philip Dick, uh, it was very interesting. I really I'm a sucker for time travel stuff, and this wasn't quite time travel, but it was man, it was interesting. It started out like when I first picked up the book, I was like, it feels like just typical PKD stuff where um, he presents you with this weird situation, and has these strange characters that you don't really identify with yet because his characters they're not as deep as a lot of the more modern sci-fi and more modern fantasy and stuff like that. Because he writes about the idea, um, and he focuses on that more than he does on characterization a lot. But as the novel went on, and you get this guy is so trippy, PKD. You get to start to see this situation uh, kind of turning over and turning into something that's truly ingenious in the way he's describing the events and how they happen, and things just twist and turn, um, and you start questioning whether the characters are seeing what they're actually seeing, and uh, PKD gives you little hints along the way about, oh, this is it here, but there's something off about it. There's something odd, and it doesn't. quite fit with a typical narrative. And as it gets further on into the book, you start seeing why that is, and then you start getting thrown all these little hints. And I really enjoyed when those hints struck home and really added up towards the end. And I really like the what Ubik stood for. Ubik. I don't know how you say it, but I really like what it stood for as the book went on. You get you think it's just this weird, like these little commercials at the beginning of each chapter, and they're like these old timey commercials where they drink this tonic and everything will be okay, right? Yeah, a little Ubik in the morning, and so, but that's amusing. But then when it gets towards the end of the book, it's it's uh integral, and it's important, and you you get this little time trippy stuff. And or is it not time trippy, but it's is it maybe like Matrix type stuff? This I could definitely see this being an influence on later sci-fi when it comes to plugging in and what have you. I mean, and just right off the bat, you're introduced in the beginning of the book that this is psyops. This is psychic operations. These are people with psychic abilities, and they vary in different ways. It could almost be it could almost veer into like a superhero type book, but it doesn't. Um, and thankfully, it doesn't. And I just really like how you're never really comfortable with what is going on, because there's always the doubt that you're actually seeing what you're reading, that what you're reading is what's actually happening, and that might not get turned over on its head the next chapter. So, you know, uh, I ended up liking this book a lot more than I thought I was gonna when I started it. And as the ending came nearer, I was like, "Oh, okay, that was pretty cool." So this is probably going to be one of my more favorite PKD books, um, right up there with A Scanner Darkly, which I thought was fantastic as well. So you won me over, PKD. Uh, um, Much better than Martian Time Slip or what have you. I think that's what the other one was. And I really enjoyed this. Once I got towards the end, it was fun. So next up, all right, next up, a couple more real quick here. Um, I'm gonna just go over this real quick. Tales Before Tolkien, because I actually finished off this book this month, and this is the roots of modern fantasy, some classic stories that inspired the author of the Lord of the Rings. Um, and it was about I've been reading this. If you've been paying attention to my channel, I've been reading this for over a year and a half, just a story a month. And as you know, some are great, some are not so great, and some weren't that fun at all. But for the most part, a lot of them were pretty cool, because you really get into the history of fantasy when you tackle these stories in this book. Most of them are from the 19th century, and they were stories that Tolkien either commented on or had read, or some of them were just stories that were popular at the time, and that the editor, um, Douglas Anderson, speculates that Tolkien probably knew about, because of that. And so a lot of these stories were pretty cool. Some were whimsy, in that 19th century fashion, and some, but there were a few, couple of really deep ones, I thought, that really were introspective, and some were just fun to read, but some were some are really good. So check out my monthly wrap ups to get the specifics out of this. But all told, I recommend this for anybody who's interested in some of the origins of fantasy writing from the 19th century and up to the early 20th. Also, I want to talk really quickly about another Arkady Martine book. This is called Rose House, and this is a more recent release by her. It's a novella length thing. I mean, this particular copy has 160 pages, but it's huge print. So the actual novella is probably closer to, like 100 pages or what have you. But anyways, this story is about a house that's supposed to be haunted. How is it haunted? It's haunted by an AI. Rose House has its own mind, its own whatever you call an AI. I don't know. Its own intelligence, I guess. So, and this is a story of a it's like a whodunit type thing. It's a police thing where the cop there's like a local cop who's trying to figure out why there's a dead body in Rose House. And that Rose House, as an AI, was obligated to report. So that's how it starts out, and it goes on from there. Um, I found it very interesting. I really love how it started out, and I thought it was very strong. I really because I really like Martine's writing from the earlier. I talked about a desolation called peace, which is great. So I once again we got into some really cool characterization with the police woman, the detective who is in charge of this, of finding out what happened here. And it's interesting because it takes place sometime in the future. We are given a date at some point in this book, but the date itself doesn't really matter as much as the fact that Martine gives you just a little glimpse of a possible future. It's very possible. It's not like there's no like spaceships running around. There's no fantastical scientific inventions or anything like that. But other than the house itself, which was built by this crazy architect who imbued the house with AI, and so it was very cool how it all came about and how the house, it didn't want to let anybody in except for this one person who's an executor of the house, and so the complications around navigating this tricky type of situation was very interesting. And I kind of liked. I don't know. I'm kind of still thinking about the ending. I'm not sure if it sat that well with me or not. I yeah, I'm gonna have to. We're gonna have a discussion about this tonight on Halloween, um, and I'll see how that goes because I'm interested to see what my friends on Speculative Speculation think about the how this book wrapped up. And so there's um there's a lot of themes about in here about identity, of course, something that Martine is does very well in her other books, um, and what it means to be labeled as a person or an institution. And is an AI a person, or is it represent a uh, a place, or it brings up stuff like that. So it's a very quick read, and so you can't go wrong by picking this little novella up and checking it out because you will get Martine's excellent writing with her great characterization, and um, you're gonna have questions. You're gonna have questions about what some of this stuff means, and you're gonna probably have a question about how this book ends and what the implications of that are, and how that leads. So Good stuff. Good stuff. All right. Next up. All right. Next up is this one is truly off the cuff because I just finished it like last night. The Wind Up Bird Chronicle by Haruki Murakami. Um, yeah. Wow, I'm still wrapping my head around this. This is a long book. It's big, big. This to copy is 600 pages, um, and it was pretty lengthy. It took me a while to get through it, but I did. And when I first started out this book, I was full steam ahead. I really got into the beginning. Mr. Okada, right? Yeah, Mr. Okada was a fascinating character to start off with, and it's in first person, the story, and so you you really you really get into his head, and what I found over time was Mr. Okada relating the story to us um, was eventually he becomes almost robotic in his relation of the story, like almost as if the events that are happening to him overwhelm him to the point where he has to shut off the emotion a little bit in order to relay the events that are happening to him. And I have a feeling that was quite on purpose by the author, and I'm wondering how much of that is part of the it's part translation, or you know I don't know. I I really really like don't get me wrong, I really enjoyed this book. I really liked reading about Mr. Okada's adventures. They were really wild. um and he really came across such interesting characters who had their own stories that they were telling him, and you start to wonder why all these people were you know into him, and what, like, why were they entrusting him with this information, and what was it about him that led them to unload their stories and their troubles and their everything upon him. And part of that was, I'm trying to do this without giving anything away, so bear with me. Part of it was that he was searching for something, and I think that searching for something, and it's a real thing, and not just like, oh, what's the meaning of life or something like that. He was actually searching, and so part of that searching comes across to the people that he runs into as a deep seated need for him to find what he's seeking. And of course, that metaphorically translates into the ambiguous search for the meaning of life, right? His actual search for what he's searching for in here. And so Murakami does a lot of that metaphorical displacement, I guess you could call it, throughout the whole book. And there was a section in this book where I was just like, all right, this book got too long. And I was like, I really wish it would get going. And just as I was at the point where I was like, okay, when's it going to get going? Finally, towards the end, significant things happen, and makes the ending, like, I read through the ending very quickly because it was very it finally came around, and I was like, oh wow, this is actually really good. And so the ending, I think, is fairly satisfying, um, to a point. I think that some people might be discouraged by how it all wraps up, but I I kind of like the fact that it wasn't nothing was convenient, and it didn't wrap up. It definitely didn't wrap up the way the main character wanted it to, and and there was a certain amount of poetic justice in the way it wrapped up, and also melancholic, sadness. So that that it was just so interesting, and so there was a lot of deep stuff in here, a lot of philosophical and psychological things that really stuck with you. Um, and like I said, I'm just trying to put my off the cuff thoughts together here about this book because I just finished it, and it was, we're reading this as part of our literary bracket read along, and on page chewing, and so this is matched up against a cave. Yeah, I'm gonna have to think about this for a while. I'm not sure it's gonna beat out the cave. I don't think so, but oh, am I giving something away there? No. Anyway, but am I glad I read this? Yes, this is a good book. This is a good book, and the fact that it's making me question a lot about what I'm reading here and about what I'm thinking about, and making me question a lot about the character, and make me question a lot about what Murakami was trying to achieve with this book, because after a while, like I said, the main character's narration becomes wooden, becomes um, matter of fact, even though the situations he finds himself are more fantastic and more threatening. Um, that's when the narration becomes more wooden and just putting the facts down. Uh, and it feels like it was on purpose. I'm sure it was, and I'm not sure if that was where I personally wanted it to go, but it also was done expertly. So you can't fault the author for doing what he set out to do. Yeah. So, all right. I keep waffling here on this book, but it is a good book. It is a great book, and I am interested in checking out more of Murakami's stuff in the future. All right, next up, and now the elephant in the room. Can't put this off any longer. Uh, Song of the Mysteries by Janny Wurts. Wow. This is book 11 in the Wars of Light and Shadow mega series, by Janny Wurts. And this is the culmination of nearly 50 years of writing and research and what have you by Janny Wurts. And this this is a major accomplishment. This is a major piece of fiction in the fantasy canon. Um, it is the culmination of so much that went into this series, and it's hard to wrap my head around. Of course, it's hard to give a review on a non-spoiler review on a book 11 series. So if you have read these books, we've had plenty of discussions on this book and all the previous books in the Wars of Light and Shadow on my channel and on my other friends' channels from Page Chewing. Uh, and so this to talk about this book as a just a quick non-spoiler review, this is the culmination of everything that you've been waiting for in this series. It has all the earmarks of a great fantasy series. It has all the everything comes full circle like you would expect. The epilogue to this series, I gotta say, perfectly reflects the prologue from way back in Curse of the Mistwraith, book one. It lines up. It makes sense. It it's not a simple. There's no return to the status quo. This is the end of an age. It's the end of an age that an age of strife, an age of war. As many ages that come to an end usually end in this manner, so it fits that fantasy mold that you wanted to. It fits that fantasy itch, but don't make any mistakes that this is any sort of run of the mill ending for fantasy. This is unique to itself. It is unique for not just the structure of the whole series, uh, but the structure of, but the the way the book was written, the way the book was comes together for the series. Um, it's really difficult to talk about Song of the Mysteries as an individual book without, of course, taking in the whole series. The I guess you could say about this book in particular, as separate from the rest, is it does deal with these mysteries, and it does deal with song and how it relates to the mysteries. The mysteries, of course, are the basis of magic in this universe, and it really this 11th book here brings those elements together, um, and it just makes everything make sense. Any questions that you had going into this book about this world and about this series are definitely just wrapped up so well. Uh, you know, she stuck the landing. She set out to do something with this series, and she did it. And it's just hard to put into words what this accomplishment really means. And I really um, am so glad that I read the whole thing. It's going to be always going to be a series and a book that sticks with me forever. And I mean, what more can you say than that? It really is peak fantasy, and this series. Let's see. I keep going back to series rather than the book itself, so I apologize for that. Like, where does this book sit with the rest of the books in this series? It's near the top. It's by default. All of Janny's Wurts' endings are the best books in the series. And this one is no exception. It is up there with those, with Storm Fortress, War Host of Vastmark, and Curse of the Mistwraith. It's up there with those four. Those are the four best books in the series, and this is one of them. So, once again, Song of the Mysteries, Janny Wurts, one of the greatest books in fantasy. And, take your time. If you haven't read this series yet, take your time. Get there. It's all worth it. And that should be it for those. So I think that wraps up everything I had to talk about today. That's a lot, I know, and so I apologize for the length of this video. I really, really hope to get into doing singular reviews in the future, once I catch up with stuff. So, and more written reviews that make more sense than my general rambling here. All right. With all that said, please like and subscribe, and please be good to each other. Thank you.